Aloha. How are you today? I'm Jason Schwartz, and I'm here with my friend and cohort, Reverend James Kimmel. Jim Kimmel, not to be confused with that late night Jimmy Kimmel guy. Although many times you'll see Jimmy Kimmel, this Jimmy Kimmel late at night. We have going in different directions. When are you going to get on with Jimmy Kimmel? Is that going to be something?
I would love to get on. Jimmy Kimmel Meet Jimmy Kimmel has been one of my efforts of trying to establish that.
Okay.
No luck.
We'll report in by the next show on that direction. And if any of you have any thoughts on how to make that a real crisp reality, we're ready to hear it.
I think it would be very interesting for Jimmy Kimmel to meet Jimmy Kimmel on his show because I was Jimmy Kimmel before he was.
That's right.
And we've come from totally different places.
But we can surely see that things change in the future. If you were on with Jimmy Kimmel, what was the one thing that you'd tell him that I bet you'd want to tell them as the most important thing for them to know?
What the world needs most to know is men and women are the sons and daughters of God. And through faith, they can actually realize and daily experience this ennobling truth.
Sons and daughters. That means we're brothers and sisters?
It means we're brothers and sisters because we're sons and daughters of God under the fatherhood of God. There's no sons or daughters without a father.
Okay.
So our father, our spiritual father, is God.
The message about helping each other, that's there in the, by the way, the book, Urantia book. Do you know how to spell Urantia already? Urantia, Urantia book. Yeah. Now the Urantia book is a gift to all of us. It came into our world, what year, 1935?
34 and 35.
34 and 35. And in it you're going to find, among other things, and I say it that way, it's the history of our world. And the history of not only our world, but the universes. Okay. So, but in there, a very significant section that I think many of us have related to is the fourth section, which is the life and teachings of Jesus. You remember him?
Our older brother.
Yeah. Now, you've heard, if you've been watching these shows, that we explore the life of Jesus more fully because the Urantia book does it way more fully. Oh. But it is an extraordinary overlap into the Christian Bible. It just really expanded my understanding of Jesus, and I better understand the teachings, and the intent, I guess, is probably, to me, the greatest thing, the intent. What would, if I crystallize the intent, can you put your fingers on the intent from Jesus?
Well, his intent was to reveal the Father to man. Jesus is the everlasting revelation of the Father to this world and to the worlds of his universe right now.
Okay.
So here's the creator of our universe. Think about it for a minute. Our creator Father, who was once upon a time our older human brother Jesus, our creator Father incarnated as a human being, the sovereign of our universe, became a human being. He was God incarnate. When Jesus was about 5 years old, the exact day and year is given in his life and teachings. I could get it momentarily, but when he was a little over 4 years old, he made his very first moral choice. And that moral choice got him what's known as a thought adjuster, a fragment of the will of God. Each of you and I and all of us have this same fragment of God within us. The Spirit of God is a fragment of the will of God. Anyhow, here's the creator of our universe with the intimacy of the will of God in his mind and soul as we have in ours. And he personalized the will of God in everything he said and did in all of his life on this planet, not only for the people of this world, but for all of the worlds of his universe. He's the sovereign now of a universe with over 3.5 million inhabited worlds.
What do you mean he personalized it? What do you mean by that?
Well, if you, we each, since we all have, excuse me, as sons of God, we're endowed with the will of God and the spirit of truth and a mind. So like, we're equipped to recognize the fact, the law, and the love of God. So now, because the spirit of Jesus in us, the spirit of truth is like a Jesus gene. So any of you and all of us could always figure out, what would Jesus think about something like this? What would he say about that? What would he do about whatever, you know? So the idea is to put yourself aside. I'm over here on the side, invisible. I'm not going to personalize the spirit of truth. So now, the personalization of the spirit of truth requires that I personalize the spirit of truth and bring it to life in my life. So you can see the spirit of truth in my life. You can see the spirit of truth in your life. Otherwise, you couldn't see it in mine. So like, this is a divine conspiracy. We're all part of a divine conspiracy to enlighten the world with the most important information for people to know about relative to their spiritual health and welfare.
That sounds so neatly bundled. Bottom line being that their continuum, their spiritual welfare, and a continuum beyond their earthly suit and their earthly desires and things that they think are manifest here as the ultimate. Yeah. Right?
Well, the ultimate, so to speak, is the absolute, which is what the will of God in us is. It's a fragment of absolute living love and pure will. So like it's original deity, like the pre-personal deity. That's why I say it's like a God gene. Our thought and gesture, the will of God in us is our divine nature and character to come.
Okay.
To inherit the kingdom of heaven, to inherit the kingdom of God, is to recognize by faith the will of God within yourself, and just grow in the knowledge of this fact and this truth, because it's a living reality. As you commune with the Spirit of God within you and share it with your friends, that's how you personalize the Spirit of truth. Be like Jesus. Do whatever well, I'm trying to do it now. Jesus was a teacher. I consider myself a teacher, especially about him, because he made it possible for us to have the Urantia book so we can all know so much more about him, and therefore be able to understand ourselves and others to the maximum possible opportunity.
Now, we've heard the expression, you can lead a horse to water.
Right. Boy.
But you can't make them drink.
Yeah, the Urantia book's a big horse. It's a big horse. But to get people to drink from that trough, I mean, it's hard. It's hard for the Christians especially.
So that's a good question for you out there. What would make you want to drink more of this trough? What is it in your life that needs some, do I want to call it help?
Yeah, input.
Input? What could make your life happier, more fulfilling? Is that how you would introduce someone to the Urantia book?
Yes, one way. There's as many ways as there are people that realize, hey, the Urantia book is a gift from God that is so great. It's like Jesus. If he was staying in your house, you'd want the whole neighborhood to know. And you'd tell everybody in town, hey man, the Naz is here. And he is here. He's in us.
So, we have on occasion, many occasions, picked into the book to share passages with people to spark them to want to read further. Recently, you've seen a lot of things going on around you. So have you. The government is deciding, people are playing God, if you will, with our currency and our country.
Doing a real bad job of it.
Yeah. And we've all been looking at health care, and we're also looking at sustainability of all of us physically and emotionally, and all the crisis and countries in upheaval. Any place in the book that you could reference that may mention this, which is now, but was future activity, that you would say would be confirms that the book's understanding of, quote, us, is something interesting, something that people would find historically. We talk about how history, we tend to repeat ourselves unless we get it right. Any references to things that are going on now that might create some light for someone?
Well, the whole life and teachings of Jesus is a reservoir of enlightenment and goodness and truth and beauty that would satisfy anybody's spiritual appetite. Anybody who loves truth loves the Prince of Peace. Anybody who loves God loves God. So, like two different persons. I mean, the Father of the Prince of Peace is the same Father we all share. He's the universal Father. So, well, I don't know. There's so many things there. One thing, the seraphic planetary government. You may be happy to know there is such a thing as a seraphic planetary government.
Seraphic, like an angel?
Angel. Yeah.
Where's that referenced in here?
This is, let's see, here we go. Paper 114 is titled Seraphic Planetary Government. The Most High's rule in the kingdoms of men through many celestial forces and agencies, but chiefly through the ministry of seraphim. Seraphim and their associated cherubim have much to do with the details of the superhuman government of a planet, especially of worlds which have been isolated by rebellion, such as ours. The angels, ably assisted by the midwayers, function on Urantia as the actual supermaterial ministers who execute the mandates of the resident governor general and all his associates and subordinates. Seraphim as a class are occupied with many assignments other than those of personal and group guardianship.
So, I'm trying to put my arms around this. So these are beings, we call them seraphim, which is angels, and cherubim, which is little angels, right? Okay. And they're here to be personally and group guarding, that means watching over in some way. Does it identify the way?
Well, when you achieve a certain level of consciousness and so forth, you get a pair of guardian angels to serve you.
Okay.
So I'm pretty confident there's at least one pair of guardian angels, if not two, sitting in the room. Sitting in with us. Let's see.
And what do they do?
They're here. Good question. Good question. Well, this deals with the sovereignty of our world, the sovereignty of Urantia. The original sovereignty of Urantia was held in trust by the sovereign of the Satania system. It was first delegated by him to a joint commission of Melchizedeks and life carriers, and this group functioned on Urantia until the arrival of a regularly constituted planetary prince.
Sovereignty meaning freedom of choice? Is that what we're talking about?
Power. Sovereignty is power. And it grows by organization.
Okay.
So the sovereignty of, earlier in the book there's a story about the Lucifer rebellion on our world, the planetary rebellion. Instead of having a planetary government by the angels, we were talking about the planetary rebellion that took place, which is extraordinary. Can't understand the day without knowing about that.
Okay.
Especially the problems that grew out of it.
Is there a way you could synopsize it? Or, I mean...
Well, let's finish this little session here with these, one question you asked didn't quite get answered.
Okay.
But there's a board of planetary supervisors, and John the Baptist, the one-time John the Baptist, is chairman of this council when it is in session on the capital of our local system of worlds. So Brother John got his head cut off, but he inherited, he's the chairman of a special board of 24 superhuman beings in charge of all the rebellion-tainted worlds.
Wow.
So now then there's the resident governor. Section 3 is the resident governor general. And section 4 is the Most High Observer. It says, the sovereignty of Urantia is further complicated by the one-time arbitrary seizure of planetary authority by the government of Norlashadek shortly after the planetary rebellion. So now that takes it up a rung, that takes it up a notch. The Most Highs rule in the kingdoms of men, and their headquarters is the constellation headquarters is known as Edentia, and Norlashadek is the name of the constellation our system is part of. It takes 100 local systems to make up one constellation, and each constellation is presided over by 3 of the Most Highs.
This is maybe a funny time to introduce this, but I think our audience might find it interesting.
Okay.
It was shared with me in an article, a video, showing astronauts that had gone from the Earth into space and orbit, and how their whole orientation and understanding of systems other than us as Earth changed and broadened once they looked down and viewed the Earth and realized all of us as one system, and better understanding the cosmos and the greater universe,
the unity of it
how
all.
much bigger than just we on Earth are. Maybe that puts into perspective something like the Urantia book and Christianity, the difference of looking from the inside out or looking from the outside in.
Really?
And giving a scale, a better understanding of the scale. I thought that was very interesting.
It is.
How spirituality and better understanding of how we all fit together comes from just from viewing it from outside. You ever heard of that about being in a game, you want to be above the board like in chess rather than be in there and be one of the players? It's an interesting perspective, and I just wanted to bring it up also for our viewers, because many of you who are Christians and others, but I'm Jewish, but I know so many Christians that haven't looked outside the box, I want to say.
They're trapped. They're trapped there because they choose to believe their leaders who tell them it would be wrong to look beyond the Bible. Don't look beyond the Bible. Anything new, it's not. You can't take anything new.
Well, our young kids, I want to say,
It's sad. It's pathetic.
I think
it's
that
tragic.
our young kids and what we've learned in this new computer age, and again getting this new perspective of outside looking in.
Hey, if all these young children out here, if all these young men and women, young boys and girls, became aware of the facts of life, the most important facts and truths of life, having to do with that which they need most to know, hey, they could begin loving one another and learning to live and love and be like Jesus. I mean, the Christians are really missing out on the opportunity to learn how to be like Jesus from reading and sharing the story of his life with his Spirit in you. He's the greatest teacher I ever had. He took me from where I was a little boy wanting to grow up and be just like him, and finally I became an atheist, and he stuck with me and led me all through the gauntlet of science and atheism and out the other side. I rode that wave until I found out, at the leading edge of science, there was an answer that says there is a God. And so I stopped being an atheist. And since I had found God and discovered God, all I can say is I know him. I didn't even know I was looking for him. As an atheist, you can't. The last thing in the world I was expecting to discover was God as a scientist.
That is so fascinating to me that you went through the whole thing and came back to the thing that you had denied.
Yeah, well, again, when I was a little kid, I made that choice under the influence of ether. I want to grow up and be just like Jesus. Now, if I hadn't had my tonsils taken out and hadn't had that ether, I might not have made that most important choice of my life. Because I wanted to, Mama, I want to grow up and be just like Jesus. I met him inside of me when I had my operation to remove my tonsils. So he knew I was honestly and sincere. That choice. It didn't matter what came out of me from then on. He was with me all the way.
Wow.
And I can look back on it now, man, talk about a rescue mission. He was a lifesaver to my young arse, as you say.
Arse. That's a French word.
Oh.
Go ahead.
On that other subject of the planetary government still. Says the actual administration of your ranch is indeed difficult to describe. There exists no formal government along the lines of universe organization, such as separate legislative, executive, and judicial departments. The 24 counselors come the nearest to being the legislative branch of the planetary government. The Governor General is a provisional and advisory chief executive with the veto power resident in the Most High Observer. And there are no absolutely authoritative judicial powers operative on the planet, only the conciliating commissions. Each administrative day on your rancho begins with a consultative conference, which is attended by the Governor General, the planetary chief of archangels, the Most High Observer, the supervising Supernafim, the chief of resident life carriers, and invited guests from among the high sons of the universe, or from among certain other student visitors who may chance to be sojourning on the planet. The direct administrative cabinet of the Governor General consists of 12 seraphim, the acting chiefs of the 12 groups of special angels functioning as the immediate superhuman directors of planetary progress and stability.
So their roles are not physical ones. They're energetic ones.
They're mind ministers mostly. The angels are granddaughters of the God of mind. And so
So what does that mean?
they're mind ministers.
It means they're a mind minister. How would I'm trying to
That's
think
a
how to
whole other
understand.
subject that goes
Okay.
deeply into the. We have to talk more about angels, I guess.
Okay.
But now, a little bit more speaking, there are angels and then there are super angels, so to speak. We have super angels, 12, what do you call, 12 groups of special angels.
Okay.
Now check this out. When the first resident governor general arrived on Urantia, at the same time, concurrent with the outpouring of the Spirit of Truth, which was 1 o'clock in the afternoon on May 18th in the year 30, that's when the first resident governor general arrived. Every 100 years after that, there's been a new governor general. So on the year 2030, we can expect a new resident governor general, or the one-time Machiavelli Melchizedek, who made the covenant with Abraham, he's been designated the vicegerent planetary prince by our Creator, Sovereign Father. And so he could show up at that point in time, or he could show up right now or any time for that matter. He is the designated planetary prince of our world, as designated by our sovereign Creator Father and older brother Jesus. So,
boy, so much to me that are at levels that just I want to say, there's super angels,
yeah.
but the thing that how to relate it to here on earth and get physical.
Let's check this out. This explains, I think, a lot of your.
Okay.
When the first governor general arrived on Urantia, concurrent with the outpouring of the Spirit of Truth, he was accompanied by 12 corps of special seraphim, Seraphington graduates, who were immediately assigned to certain special planetary services. These exalted angels are known as the Master Seraphim of Planetary Supervision and are, aside from the over-control of the planetary Most High Observer, under the immediate direction of the resident Governor General. These 12 groups of angels, while functioning under the general supervision of the resident Governor General, are immediately directed by the Seraphic Council of 12, the acting chiefs of each group. This council also serves as the volunteer cabinet of the resident Governor General. As planetary chief of Seraphim, I preside over this council of seraphic chiefs, and I am a volunteer supernaphim of the primary order serving on Urantia as the successor of the one-time chief of the angelic hosts of the planet who defaulted at the time of the Caligastia secession 200,000 years ago.
Oh.
Anyhow, these 12 corps of these supernaphim they originate on paradise, where the deities reside.
Okay.
So they're, like I say, super angels. They include, first, the epical angels. These celestial ministers are entrusted with the oversight and directions of the affairs of each generation, as they are designed to fit into the mosaic of the age in which they occur. The progress angels. These seraphim are entrusted with the task of initiating the evolutionary progress of the successive social ages. They foster the development of the inherent progressive trend of evolutionary creatures. They labor incessantly to make things what they ought to be. Third are the religious guardians. These are the so-called angels of the churches. The earnest contenders for that which is and has been. They endeavor to maintain the ideals of that which has survived for the sake of the safe transit of moral values from one epoch to another. They are the checkmates of the angels of progress, all the while seeking to translate from one generation to another the imperishable values of the old and passing forms into the new and therefore less stabilized patterns of thought and conduct. Then the angels of nation life. These are the so-called angels of the trumpets, directors of the political performances of Urantia national life, the group now functioning in the over-control of international relations is the fourth corps to serve on the planet. It is particularly through the ministry of this seraphic division that the Most Highs rule in the kingdoms of men. Then there are the angels of the races, those who work for the conservation of the evolutionary races of time, regardless of their political entanglements and religious groupings.
That's a real commitment.
On Urantia, there are remnants of 9 human races which have commingled and combined into the people of modern times. These seraphim are closely associated with the ministry of the race commissioners, and the group now on Urantia is the original corps assigned to the planet soon after the day of Pentecost. Next are the angels of the futures. These are the projection angels who forecast a future age and plan for the realization of the better things of a new and advancing dispensation. They are the architects of the successive eras. Next are the angels of enlightenment. We're now receiving the help of the third corps of seraphim dedicated to the fostering of planetary education. These angels are occupied with mental and moral training as it concerns individuals, families, groups, schools, communities, nations, and whole races. Then there are the angels of health.
Hell?
Health.
Health.
These are the seraphic ministers assigned to the assistance of those mortal agencies dedicated to the promotion of health and the prevention of disease. Then there are the home seraphim. Urantia now enjoys the services of the 5th group of angelic ministers dedicated to the preservation and advancement of the home, the basic institution of human civilization.
That's an interesting one right there. When I think about this, I'm wrestling to bring it down into a realm. We can lead people to this information,
right,
but how do they drink it? How do they integrate it and make it real and practical in their lives? What's your,
Well, if you hear any thought seeds coming from any direction, from anybody, good thought seeds, or that's what we want to plant in our mind garden, as it were.
Yeah.
If you want to reap the fruit in your life that makes you end up looking like somebody like Richard Nixon, for example, you gotta think some slimy thoughts and do some dirty deeds to end up like that. So you get what you choose, and it's this power to choose that has set us apart in the world.
But these seraphim, these are angels and super angels.
Yeah.
Here to protect and guide us.
Yeah.
But how do they make an impact in shaping the quality, which I'm guessing, to shape the quality of our world? If when we see that we're looking around us and we may see a little manifestation of some of these lofty thoughts and directions. So how do we get the connector?
We're almost there.
Okay.
There are 3 other groups of angels. The angels of industry. Where's all this nice new computer stuff come from, right?
Okay.
The angels of diversion. All kinds of shit going on these days. and the angels of superhuman ministry. These are the angels of the angels and all the other superhuman beings on the planet. So now, the master seraphim of planetary supervision utilize many agencies for the prosecution of their missions. They function as ideational clearinghouses, mind focalizers, and project promoters. While unable to inject new and higher conceptions into human minds, they often act to intensify some higher ideal which has already appeared within a human intellect.
Okay.
But aside from these many means of positive action, the Master Seraphim ensure planetary progress against vital jeopardy through the mobilization, training, and maintenance of the reserve corps of destiny. The chief function of these reservists is to ensure against breakdown of evolutionary progress. They are the provisions which the celestial forces have made against surprise. They are the guarantees against disaster. Everything's covered.
Well, I am seeing, we're just getting to the point where we should probably take a break for end of a show.
Good.
This is paper 120, 121, 114,
113.
113. That was really...
Oh, no, it's not. It's 114. Yeah,
Okay.
114.
So 114. I'm going to put that at the bottom of the screen to reference you, because I think there's a lot more to dig in here on this.
Yeah.
Because to me, that's the thing is how to take the angelic beings that are helping shape our direction and bring it down here to Earth. I think that's a good one.
Yeah, it is. And we need to know about the age that we're in. The age of Adam and Eve is past. The age of the planetary prince is past. We're in what's known as the post-bestowal sun age. And we're like 2 ages ahead of our time because the creator of our universe incarnated on this planet, and that made it possible for him to bestow his spirit on all of us 2 ages ahead of time. So we're very, very, very fortunate to be on this extraordinary, extreme world.
Well, I'm sure a lot of you may feel out there a little like you see when you look at me now. These concepts are greater than the box that I'm used to operating from.
Yeah.
And you're really expanding our awareness of things.
I'm trying to.
That's right. And I like the fact that it's in a framework that many of us do understand, because that's the Jesus thing really ties it down to something from here on earth that many people have experienced. Whether they've experienced it in its fullness, we see clearly they have not.
Yeah, this section here titled Urantia's Post-Bestowal Age is a section we should just spend some time on.
I want to spend a few moments now. I know we're running toward the end of an hour, so
okay.
That's the reason I'm
Well, the age that we're in is known as the post-bestowal sun age. Okay. Jesus was the son who was bestowed. Now we're in the afterwards.
Okay.
The bestowal son is the Prince of Peace. He arrives with the message, peace on earth and goodwill among men. On normal worlds, this is a dispensation of worldwide peace. The nations no more learn war. But such salutary influences did not attend the coming of your bestowal son, Christ Michael. Urantia is not proceeding in the normal order. Your world is out of step in the planetary procession. Your master, when on earth, warned his disciples that his advent would not bring the usual reign of peace on Urantia. He distinctly told them that there would be wars and rumors of wars, and that nation would rise against nation. At another time he said, think not that I have come to bring peace upon earth. Even on normal evolutionary worlds, The realization of the worldwide brotherhood of man is not an easy accomplishment. On a confused and disordered planet like Urantia, such an achievement requires a much longer time and necessitates far greater effort. Unaided social evolution can hardly achieve such happy results on a spiritually isolated sphere. While Jesus has shown the way to the immediate attainment of spiritual brotherhood, the realization of social brotherhood on your world depends much on the achievement of the following personal transformations and planetary adjustments. First, social fraternity.
Giant.
Multiplication of international and interracial social contacts and fraternal associations through travel, commerce, and competitive play. Development of a common language and the multiplication of multilinguists. The racial and national interchange of students, teachers, industrialists, and religious philosophers. Second, intellectual cross-fertilization. Brotherhood is impossible on a world whose inhabitants are so primitive that they fail to recognize the folly of unmitigated selfishness.
Boy, read that one again. Listen to this one, guys. Go ahead.
Brotherhood is impossible on a world whose inhabitants are so primitive that they fail to recognize the folly of unmitigated selfishness.
Boy, that one should be a poster. Right there. What are our chances of getting it right if we're so selfish?
There must occur an exchange of national and racial literature. Each race must become familiar with the thought of all races. Each nation must know the feelings of all nations. Ignorance breeds suspicion, and suspicion is incompatible with the essential attitude of sympathy and love.
Boy, these things are, we've heard these all come at us so many years, and we heard it in the Bible, we've heard it from all kinds of teachings. This is really interesting. To me, this is sort of like a scientist approach. No beating around the bush, just burns the bush.
That's
right
why
there.
I love it. That's why, as a scientist, this is my greatest
attractive.
discovery, next to God Himself.
This is right out there. Boy, is that powerful. Please reference that again. This is paper 114.
Paper 114. No, this is paper 52.
Okay, paper 50.
Planetary Mortal Epics.
Man, that is really powerful.
Yeah, truly.
You see why I keep getting... That's what I think you should do. Go into this book and find sections like this. There's an index in here which you can lead to all kinds of sections, but like that section right there, it just smacks directly of the reason.
And this is what we have to do if we want to make it the way it ought to be.
Yeah.
Third is ethical awakening. Only ethical consciousness can unmask the immorality of human intolerance and the sinfulness of fratricidal strife.
Fratricidal.
Strife.
Meaning brother.
Brother killing brotherhood.
Oh.
Brother killing
Sidal.
brother.
I see.
Only a moral conscience can condemn the evils of national envy and racial jealousy. Only moral beings will ever seek for that spiritual insight which is essential to living the Golden Rule. Fourth, political wisdom. Emotional maturity is essential to self-control. Only emotional maturity will ensure the substitution of international techniques of civilized adjudication for the barbarous arbitrament of war. Wise statesmen will sometime work for the welfare of humanity even while they strive to promote the interest of their national or racial groups. Selfish political sagacity is ultimately suicidal. destructive of all those enduring qualities which ensure planetary group survival.
Well, that's powerful.
And last is spiritual insight. The brotherhood of man is, after all, predicated on the recognition of the fatherhood of God. The quickest way to realize the brotherhood of man on Urantia is to effect the spiritual transformation of present-day humanity. The only technique for accelerating the natural trend of social evolution is that of applying spiritual pressure from above, thus augmenting moral insight while enhancing the soul capacity of every mortal to understand and love every other mortal.
I get that. What's spiritual pressure from above? What is that?
Well, let's say John the Baptist, for a modern day John the Baptist to arise, proclaiming the kingdom of God is at hand.
So, in theory, someone like yourself,
Yeah,
who's here pointing out, and that's what you mean by putting the pressure on,
yeah.
pointing out those
Spiritual
truths.
facts, busting, not necessarily busting the false facts, but revealing the new ones, and the false ones will die out in the shadows.
Well, I think this is a good point to end our show, but I want to thank you because the level of commitment that you give to this is senior. I'm going to shake your hand.
Oh, okay.
Is senior to everything. I see that you live these concepts.
Yeah.
I've seen it in the way you are with me and the way you've been with everyone that I see around you.
Yeah, cool.
Thank you for your personal commitment for all of us. And you are really a treat.
Well, thank you for your response and your appreciation. I really appreciate your appreciation.
Well, you know, the more I see the world, and in light of what you share, I can see it in you, and I really, truly thank you for that.
I appreciate that. And the last sentence that applies to exactly what you're saying says, mutual understanding and fraternal love are transcendent civilizers and mighty factors in the worldwide realization of the brotherhood of man.
Well, I'm more and more realizing. Thank you.
Sure, my pleasure. Thank you.
I hope that you'll join us. We've had some questions. The next show, I'm going to bring out some of those questions and we'll answer them. Is that okay with you?
Sure, that's fine.
As a way to get more specific involvement from you?
What would you like to know? What do you want to know more about anything, whatever it is? Yeah. What is it you don't know that you want to know something about?
You know how to contact us. I'm sure you'll see it at the end of the show.
Right.
But Peace Inc., Peace INC at Maui.net is Jim's email address. And you'll see it along the credits and stuff. And please, questions are what we want because that's the best way to keep it fresh and relevant to you. And this here Rancher book, not only can you physically pick up a copy, but you can go online. That's the way I seem to like it because I can make the text big, which is good.
Yeah. Plus, you can type in the words, whatever, any subject, get all kind of references.
Yeah, that's really good. You can type in any subject and up it'll come right there out of there.
If you want to know something about soul, what does it say about soul? There's
Search engines are unbelievable. They find in a website. It's very helpful.
It really is.
We will see you soon. Thank you, Jim.
Hey,
Thank
much
you for
aloha,
doing this.
everybody.
Aloha.